Welcome everyone. In this course, we'll be using Python language and let's get started with Python. So what you can see on the screen here is Visual Studio Code, VS Code, and this is one of the best editors for writing code. It has debugging, syntax highlighting, intelligent code completion, code refactoring. It is integrated with Git and many more, right? So this is one of the best code editors. I love it, and this is how it looks. On the left hand side, it shows all the files. You can see here we have a Python file, program.py. We also see that it supports notebooks, IPython notebooks. We'll not look at it here. Maybe a bit later we'll look at it. But it has an extension IPYNB. So it also supports Python notebooks. So here you can see all the files. You can click on any of the files and we can edit it here. And at the bottom, we have terminal. And ls is list all files command. And we can see notebook IPython file and program Python file, right? So this is how VS Code looks. Now let's look at our Python version. Minus version. So we can see the Python version. It's 3.10.4. This is what I will be using. So this is the terminal. Now let's look at Python interpreter. And how do we start interpreter? We go to the terminal and we type Python 3 or Python, whatever you have installed. So because we'll be working with interpreter for some time, I'll just expand it. So when you write Python, it opens an interpreter. This is how it looks in the beginning. And if you want to clear the screen, Control plus L is the shortcut. L for London. And this interpreter is called REPL. Why? The full REPL, right? So the full form of REPL is read, evaluate, print, and loop, right? So what happens is, let's say I write 1 plus 1. So what the interpreter will do is that it will read this string 1 plus 1. It will evaluate it. And then it will print the results. And then it will loop again and is ready to take the next line. 1 plus 1 equals 2. Similarly, if we can do 2 into 5, 2 5s are 10, it's a multiplication. Again, what REPL is doing is it will read it, it will evaluate it, it will print it, and it will loop again and ready to take the input again, right? This is what REPL means. Okay, now let's just look at basic operations, right? Already we have seen 1 plus 1, which is addition. We can do a multiplication. We can do a division. We can do another division. Now, there's something called integer division. So let's say I do 4 by 3. This is the actual result. But if I just want the integer part, I will write it like this. So this is integer division. We can also do Boolean operations. For example, true is a value and false is another value for Boolean, true and false, right? And we know that true and true will be true. Similarly, true and false will be false. So these are the basic operations. Okay, we have one more. We can also do exponentiation. 2 to the power 3, which is 2 into 2 into 2, which is 8. Okay, we have modulo operator. So this gives the remainder. If we do 4 modulo 3, you'll get 1. So we can also check the type. So there's a function called type in Python. And it takes an input, a value, let's say 23. So what is the type of 23, right? It is an integer of class int, right? So int is the data type of 23 and it means integers. Similarly, if I have a fraction 23.1, what is the type of it? It's a floating type. Similarly, we can check the type of true. It's a Boolean type, bool. And you can also check the type of string. So string is usually written with double quotes. And this is a type str, which represents string. So these are called the primitive types. And this is how you can play with REPL or interpreter. You can just type in anything and see the results immediately. Similarly, if I want to print my name, right? So what the interpreter will do, it will read it, it will see that we want to print a string and will print the string. Basically, what interpreter helps us to do is play around with commands quickly, right? So let's talk our exercise with the interpreter and go back to a Python program, right? Now we have a program.py here. So this is a Python program. And what is the simplest program we can write, right? We can print something. We can output. Let's say I want to output hello world. So there's a function called print hello world. So this function print takes an argument, which is a string here. And it can take many arguments, but here we have given only one argument, which is hello world. And arguments are separated by comma. So let's run this program and see what it does. So how do we run the program? We write Python and then program.py. So Python program.py. So now when I hit enter, what is the expectation, right? It will output hello world. Let's see. See, it prints hello world. We can actually add more arguments. Let's say I want to write hello world, I am here. So now we can see that it takes two arguments, hello world and I am here, right? Let's run this. So what we are doing, how do we run it? Python space program.py. And we can see what is expected. It prints the arguments. Hello world, I am here. Now let's say if I wanted, instead of hello world, I wanted to say hello Devendra, right? One option is I could just hard code it, hello Devendra, right? And that would work. Let's try again. Hello Devendra, right? But the problem is every time we want to print a name, we don't want to modify a program again and again. So for that, there's another function which takes the input and ask enter your name. So what we have done is we are trying to print by inputting while the program runs. Let's run it and see what happens, right? So I'll just clear the screen. I'll run the program again. And we can see now it is asking enter your name. I will enter my name Devendra and it prints the name. So here is a concept of return type. A function can also return a value. In this case, it returns the name or the string. And we want to catch that value and reuse it later on, right? For that, we use what is called a variable. Let's say my variable name is name, and now what is happening here is this input function returns what I entered while running the program and assigns it to the variable name. And now we can print the name, right? Let's say hello name. What do you think? Will it work? Let's see if it works. We'll clear the screen, run it again. I'll write my name and they were for short. And we see that it doesn't work, right? Okay. So one way to do it would be, can use print again. So now what we are doing is that we are using print twice and see if it prints the name. Right? It's a hacky way, but let's see what happens. Let's clear the screen first, run it again, enter my name is there. Now the problem here is that it is printing on two different lines, right? We want a way to have it in the same line. So one option which print provides is it can take multiple inputs. So now what it will do is it will take the input from the user. It will assign that value to the variable name, which is of type str. Then it will print hello and then the name which we entered. Let's try and run it. We clear the screen, run it by running python program.py. It is asking for a name. We'll enter there and we can see it prints hello there. Let's try with another name. Let's say I print Ravi. It says hello Ravi. So it's working in the way we want it to work. Now there are many ways to write this, right? One is how we wrote it. Another way is we can modify the string in such a way that it gives us what we want. So let's see an example. So earlier we wrote this, right? And we saw that it was not able to understand that this name should be the same as this variable name, right? So there's a way to do it in Python. We'll enclose the variable name in curly braces. Let's see what happens. Okay. We'll clear it. We'll run it again. Enter my name, which is there. And still it doesn't work, right? So what we will do now, so Python has a way to inform that this parenthesis is special, right? And it's called F, this is called F string. We just add an F in front of the string. And now the program is able to identify. You can see also that the color has changed, right? Now the curly braces are in pink, name is of different color, which shows that it's a variable, right? Let's run it. We'll clear the screen, we'll run it again, name is there, and it works. So this is a type of string formatting called F strings, where we can use curly braces to add variables to the string. Now, if you look at the documentation of print, right? Earlier, what we have seen is when we are able, when we are trying to do this, right? We wanted to print hello, and then in the next line, we wanted to print the name, and it didn't work. Let's try it again because it won't work. We know that, but let's try. Right? It comes in two different lines. So what happens is, if you look at the documentation of print, so what happens is the documentation says that it takes arguments, which is strings, and it is also taking something like a separator and an end, right? And end is backslash n, which is a new line. So by default, the print statement ends with a new line. So what we can do is we can change it. How will we do it? We'll just say that the end should end with a space, right? Now we should see that it should work. Let's clear the screen, run it again, enter the name, and it works, right? So another thing of VS Code is that it shows you the documentation of the command. Let's say if I just wrote print, open parenthesis, it shows you. And it takes a lot of positional arguments. It has a separator, which should be of type string. And the default value is a space. It also has another argument called end, which is a string. And the default value is backslash n, right? This is from documentation. You can add multiple values. Then one more thing I want to talk about is positional arguments. So for example, hello is an argument for position 0. World is an argument for position 1. Name is an argument for position 2, right? So because it's position based, it's called positional arguments. There's also name based arguments. We'll look at it later. Let's run it again. Clear the screen, run it, enter my name, and it works, right? So let's play around a bit more. Let's say I want to say hello, my name. And what if I have inputted my name as full name, right? Let's do that. But what I want from a program is that it only uses my first name, right? So what I can do is I can modify the program in such a way that the first name, last name, and what we can do is a command called split, and it will be splitting by space. So what is happening on line number 4 is that name is a type of variable which is of string type, and string type variables has a lot of functions which can be operated on those. So split is one of them. So when I do a name dot split, first name, last name, it will split wherever there's a space. And then I can use hello first name. Let's see if it works. I'll clear it, run it again, enter. It works. Let's say if I didn't capitalize my inputs, right? But what I want from a program is that this should be capital, right? So there's a command for that also. So I can print first dot capitalize. Let's see if it works. I'll clear the screen again, run it again. It works. What if I add a name? What if I don't want to just use the first name? I want to print the full name with capitalized. I'll clear the screen again, run it again, and let's see what happens. So what is happening with capitalizes? It just capitalizes the first alphabet, and this is not what we want. So there's another function called title, and let's see what it does. So what we can see here is that only the first alphabet is capital. We want the second last name's first alphabet also as capital, right? So what we will do is We'll clear the screen again, we'll run it again and see if title works. And it works. So there are a lot of string operations you can do. We'll come back on string operations again. But this is the introduction to Python. And let's continue.